Okay, we're live, Cynthia.
Hello, everyone. This is Cynthia Stewart. I'm one of the co-founders for Business Performance USA, and we just want to give a shout out to our audience today and say thanks for joining us at this weekly webinar produced by Business Performance USA. We are always honored to have you on as our guest, so thanks for joining us today. And today we're going to talk more about BPUSA than we normally do. BPUSA is the way, of course, that we talk about Business Performance USA. I think you can figure that out, so forgive us when I say BPUSA, it's just so much easier. If you've been joining us, you know that we do produce weekly webinars on Tuesday at noon Central, and we provide business insights on a wide variety of topics. We reach to our networks, and we find those people who are really leaders and who have executive background, who are for the most part, they lead their own businesses and provide all kinds of information into the marketplace and great talents and skills. So that's what Business Performance does, and that's how we basically share great wisdom and great ideas that you can bank on actually each week at Business Performance USA. We are a voluntary association open to anyone who likes to collaborate and pollinate great ideas to grow on. We are all about people's career and about them growing in their professions as well as within their companies and within their communities. And so we spread all this goodness around on a weekly basis. You can't find this anywhere, so we're glad you're here today. And I really, I want to go ahead and introduce myself. Victor, if you could go ahead and fast forward us. We're going to talk about career today. There I am, Cynthia Stewart. There's our other co-founder, Dr. Jefferson Stewart, and of course Victor Dominguez. We are the co-founders for Business Performance USA, and now we've logged in over 100 hours of webinars and have so much on offer for folks who come in and join our community. I am a managing partner in my company, Evermore Services, and I'm your partner in building tomorrow's businesses today through sustainable, wonderful business practices that grow people and grow companies. We want to make sure now that this hour is worth your time, and so we're going to try a little experiment today. We're always about adapting our way forward and discovering things. We're going to try to open up the mute button on everyone's phones, and we'll give you time to go ahead and talk with Victor as he talks about BPUSA to make sure that any of your questions get answered. Okay, and what I'd like to do now is about to turn this over to Victor. Before we do that, let's just talk about him. He is managing partner of the Ligature Group and has launched multiple successful businesses, especially in this space in terms of marketing, communications, and public relations, and has served also as a senior executive for Fortune 500 companies, as well as smaller companies, but two that you'll all know about is C.B. Richard Ellis and Morgan Stanley. While at C.B. Richard Ellis, Victor's market strategies helped them to achieve the #1 brand in the industry, and I'm pretty sure they still hold that today. I know I see them everywhere. And in the course of his career, he's worked with over 80 companies to build their brand equity through corporate communications, branding, marketing, sales, customer service, and organizational development. In the time that I've known Victor, I've learned tremendously from him. I can't even begin to tell you how much I've learned from Victor, and always love to see his insights, especially in the area of infographics and how to communicate visually. He is a master at that. So you want to listen to Victor in terms of marketing and selling strategies, and those companies that have earned, generated tens of millions of revenue based on his guidance. So let's go ahead and turn this over to you, Victor, and why don't you jump in and maybe tell us more about BPUSA.
Thank you, Cynthia. I really appreciate that. It's always good to have you introduce me and, of course, collaborate with you and Dr. Jeff. Welcome, everyone in our audience. We still have the microphones muted for you. We'll unmute that soon. But there's really two topics here today with this webinar. The first, of course, is why Business Performance USA? What does it matter to you? Because really, the whole answer to that is you. You are the reason we exist. Like Cynthia said, we're a volunteer organization, we're nonprofit, and we're just a lot of business leaders who really care about growing people's careers. We care about creating, the ideal culture within companies where people can, liberate their careers, unleash their potential, and that's just what we're really all about. We know if you want to grow the bottom line, the best way to do that is to begin with the people in the company. And we're real passionate about that, and that's why we do a lot of pro bono work with individuals regarding their careers and with companies as well. And you may have noticed at the beginning slide, our scope of focus is really about people performance and, actually people practices and performance. So we're going to segue into today in a minute about people, about your career and how to really take it to the next level, or take your single shingle business to the next level. If you're an independent solo entrepreneur, service provider, consultant, you have your career to manage, you have your business to manage, you have to sell, you have to service clients, you need referral business, and that's quite a lot to take on. So that we'll put that into the realm of career development as well. But again, the simple answer here is business performance exists for you, to develop you, to teach you best practices in the marketplace and to improve performance. People, practices, and performance is really what we're all about. And we welcome you to join us. So how we do this in simple terms is we're pollinators. We pollinate our community with great ideas. These webinars are just one of them. But we also know this really ultimately happens one person at a time. We're relationship builders, and I hope to have a professional relationship with everyone on the call today. There's some familiar names out there, and it's good to see. Some from recent endeavors, some from past endeavors. And so, look, we have a jump start. We already have a personal relationship, but it's great to reinvigorate that and start those up again. So that's why we're here, for you to reach out to us. And let's get some great ideas out there in the world that can really change the way we work together, the way we collaborate, and the way we communicate, and really make work both rewarding and really identify a shared common purpose for why we show up to work. And so there you go. Again, thank you for joining us. I see that folks are still jumping in online, and that's great. We're happy to have you here. What we've covered so far is just a broad philosophy of why Business Performance USA exists. And let's get into the issue today. At core of it, I'll parse this out. You could look at business performance in terms of career advancement and development, and then you can look at another important segment we work with, which is broader companies, how to change the entire operational organizational excellence. And I'm going to have Cynthia and Jeff come in, and we're going to talk about special interest groups and communities towards the end of this webinar. So you'll have an opportunity to understand where you can fit within our broader scope. So we'll close out with where's your world within Business Performance USA? So let me get to a general overview here. Let's talk about your career. And again, it's you that defines your career, because like I said earlier, many of the people on this call, I know some, and I've kind of done a little research, if you will, on others. And we have career professionals on the call today, and we also have consultants and what I call single shingles, if you will. I don't mean anything disparaging. I'm sort of a single shingle. And so let's talk about the three cornerstones of strategy, tactical execution, and collaboration. I should have bolded collaboration there. These three things, along with the fourth wild card, we're going to get into a little bit of depth. And at the moment, I'm going to unmute your microphone. So the audience is live right now. If you can make an effort to keep your background noise at a minimum, that would be great. But the reason I unmuted the audience is so that you can ask questions about career strategy, tactical execution, and collaboration with our network. And these are topics that, I work really in depth with my networks here in Southern California. Just a little bit of background. I've literally sat across the table from over 200 professionals in Southern California to discuss their career, discuss career advancement, or work with folks in transition. And it's really kind of all the same conversation, to tell you the truth. So what I'll be showing you today is much of the information and my own tactics for helping folks advance their career based on those 200 individuals that I've already worked with. And of course, Cynthia and Jeff have done the same thing as well. So we're going to get into a little detail in the beginning, then I'm going to show you some broad range of topics that you're welcome to talk to me about, either on this call or in the future. Again, essential career planning, you have to really have nailed down your strategy. You have to know how to communicate or message your intention to the marketplace. How do you go about the tactics? What are the things you have to do for advancing your career? And how does one manage their emotional state? That's kind of what I call the wild card, if you will. So let's talk a little about strategy. There's more to it than just this, but when I sit down with folks, and essentially we're sitting down with you today, so you are right in there with what we normally do, we want to talk to you about short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategies. And I really think about this, what short-term is immediate opportunities. How can you, if you have an opportunity, but you need to close on that opportunity in front of you today, how can we go about that? And that gets into really a selling type of situation. And if you don't think of yourself as a salesman, let me disabuse you of that notion. You are in fact a salesperson, because you need to influence people. You need to convince them of your ideas are best, whether that's for your next advancement or promotion within a company, or how to land that next client. Midterm gets into tactical execution as well. We'll talk about having target companies and target opportunities for you. And these are things that would close within the next 6 months. You may not have an opportunity for midterm advancement at the moment. Okay, I'm getting input. I've got a typo in here, and I'll address that. And then long-term strategies as well. Long-term strategies is for true career transition. And I'll take us to the next bullet point there. And again, the audiences, feel free to jump in, and you can submit a question via chat or the question feature, or you can just speak up and ask me a question. But are you thinking about your career in terms of short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategies? And in that regards are you going to stay in your wheelhouse and do what you've always done? Apparitional is really aspirational search, or a hybrid strategy. If you're staying in your wheelhouse, you can really get down to action right now, and you can really get engaged with short term. If you have an aspirational search, meaning I want to change the focus of my career, the skill sets that I provide, and then really, maybe the reality is you probably have to, the reason I'm pausing here is because I'm looking at comments that people are making. So if you're staying in your wheelhouse, you can jump right into short-term strategy. But if you also, you're working your career as you know it today, but if you really want to change in the long term, that's what I call a hybrid strategy. You need to do what you're doing today, and you need to strategize, plan, and make a commitment, a disciplined commitment for changing your career. Maybe you really want a career that makes a difference in this world. Maybe you want to change industries. Maybe you want to change skill sets. So you need a hybrid to really do both within your career. Like I said, are you going to stay in industry specializations or transfer? And are you really seeking a full-time employee position? Do you want contract work, or do you really want to build a consultancy? I think of the contract work as the middle ground between a full-time employee and a consultant. And I really often strongly encourage people to begin their efforts with a contract work rather than at first being a consultant and hanging out your shingle and having your website out there and presenting yourself to the marketplace as a full-time consultant. The reason I parsed the two, because if you really want a full-time employee, position, but you hang out a consultant shingle, that's going to confuse the hiring managers in companies who may be hesitant to hire a consultant who's working their own business. We could talk more about that, but I'm going to keep moving on. So these are the three options here for everyone. Full-time employee, contract work, or consultant. And again, the contract work is really somebody that is like an interim leader. They just drop in, they start doing work right away and get down to business and start generating results. And in strategy, often we work with folks to really get an assessment of their competencies and capabilities. In simple terms, the reason we divide these, and this is much more of Dr. Jeff's concept, if you think about what you're really competent at, your competencies make your company or your client more capable in the marketplace. So what you do really well within a company makes that company more capable out in the marketplace and capable of serving their customers and capable of landing more business. This is really important to have an understanding of your competencies and the capabilities that you will bring into realization, because within this realm is where you really add value to the marketplace. And if you don't understand your value within the company you're working for, then you really are going to have a hard time selling people and convincing people. So your value proposition, of course, is critical to the strategy and critical to our next stage, which we call messaging. And again, if you have any questions, this webinar is certainly for you. Feel free to ask. I'm just checking for messages and questions. And I've gotten comments, but I'm having a difficult time extrapolating questions out of those comments. So appreciate the comments and dialogue. If you have a specific question, of course, just jump right in. Feel free to ask. The second thing we talk about when we get into essential career planning, and by the way, we're going to have subsequent webinars that really get into these things in depth. What this webinar is about is creating awareness of what business performance can do for you in terms of career. Again, why business performance? Why do we help you with your career? Well, now and in the future, we can help you with your messaging. Elevator pitch, of course, is really, really important. It's truly a 10-second proposition, but it's also the messaging that follows with that, because nobody's ideally the idea is to have a substantive conversation, not just a quick 10-second pitch. And you have to be really clear about your sales proposition. Even if you're not a salesperson, advancing your career really, like I said earlier, is about selling, essentially selling your value in the marketplace. So talk to me about that in the future. Now, a lot of people, my experience with these 200 plus people is the first thing they start talking about and talking in regards is almost in context to the resume. Well, at so-and-so company back in 2005, I did A, B, and C, and I got these results. And that's fine, but that's really not the core of selling. It's really not the core of your strategy. What we want our members to have at Business Performance USA is an acute awareness of how to have forward-looking conversations, meaning you meet somebody at a network meeting, you meet somebody at a pitch, and you really have to understand where that individual or where that company is in the present and what their strategy for them is going forward. And they want to hear from you where you're going to take them right now and into the future. They care a lot less about what you did back in 2005. So when anybody is developing their career planning, you really need to understand, you really need to focus your conversations on today, tomorrow, and the future, and what conversations you're going to have. Now, in terms of conversations and messaging, if you will, and I'm a huge advocate of networking, but if you network intelligently with purpose and with discipline, because if you're just collecting business cards, it's not going to work for you. I'm just telling you right now. But if you network with a purpose, with a pay it forward, with a sense of sharing and a sense of serving others, it's going to work for you. And these 4 topics here, vision, beliefs, principles, and practices, are the 4 things I talk about when I'm networking. Because people aren't going to remember details about you and your career. They're not going to remember details about your company, but they're easily going to remember if they like you. And If you can connect with people on these four things, vision, beliefs, principles, and practices, they're going to really remember the core essence of you without having to remember details. If you absolutely should, for your strategy, have a vision for your industry and have a vision for your career. And that vision is really an extrapolation of your competencies and capabilities. And it's a vision, and it's an acute understanding of what value you offer. And it's an acute understanding of the industry or industries that you work in. What are the opportunities in those industries? What are the challenges in those industries? It's in simple terms, it's a SWOT analysis of the industry that you're working within and a SWOT analysis of the company that you're working for. And what's your take? People don't want, if you're going to be a true leader, you have to be able to articulate your true vision and where you can take a company. And I don't care if you're IT, marketing, sales, operations, finance, you have your role to play within shaping that company. Now, if you connect with people on beliefs, and this is a huge one, if you're in a networking meeting, if you're in an interview, if you're at a pitch, no matter where you are, the person or people that you're talking to, when they can see that you believe in what they believe, then they're going to like you. Then they're going to feel an emotional connection to you. And people tend to think more emotionally these days than analytically. And connecting on shared beliefs is absolutely paramount. The key, though, and this is subtle, that people want you to believe what they believe. Okay, it's all fine if you believe in. You could just pick anything. Polka dotted puppies east of the Mississippi. If you believe that this world needs to benefit and support that cause, that's great. But if the person you're talking to doesn't believe in polka dotted puppies east of the Mississippi, they're not really going to connect with you. So you need to be on your core beliefs, but you need to ask the right questions, understand what other people believe, and connect with them on their beliefs. Obviously, if you genuinely and authentically believe the same thing as well. It's always good to talk about business principles, practice, ethics, classically, or the empirical line that you will not cross. These are my business principles, and people want to hear that and understand that, and that's an intellectual and stimulating conversation. And of course, you can always share best practices. These four are great topics for networking rather than reciting who you are, what you've done. For messaging, you got to nail down your biography and resume, and we'll have a webinar talking about that. Your online presence is the most difficult thing to manage because it's one presence. You can't afford to segment your messaging for your audience. You have to have one presence, and your LinkedIn bio is the classic place. We'll talk about LinkedIn. You really need to have an understanding and written out what phone scripts, emails, and letters you're going to communicate. And this is all work. Messaging, essentially, this is the marketing end of selling your career. And this is what we're here to talk to you about. So again, if any of these things interest you, or it's like you just know you don't have a good elevator pitch, you know it takes you 60 seconds to say it or whatnot, this is why we're here. This is why we encourage you to join Business Performance USA if you haven't already. And I see a lot of the names on here, the attendees, and I know they already have. So that's the place to talk to me about your elevator pitch or everything else. Last is, well, not last at all, but of the three critical ones, strategy, messaging, and tactics. Tactics is all about discipline and commitment. It's about knowing that I'm going to be not just doing this for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, I'm really going to be doing these things for the rest of my career. And I can give you a lot of compelling evidence as to why networking and developing your career is becoming a full-time, never-ending commitment, a lifelong commitment, because the dynamics in the marketplace and the loyalty among companies and employees is radically changed. It's no longer what it was in the 20th century, and we need to wake up to that fact and understand that your career is solely in your hands, and the way you advance it is solely upon you. You can't expect a company to look out for you any longer, and I'm quite sure you're aware of that already. So we're going to talk about in subsequent webinars and why Business Performance USA can help you in terms of short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And these tactics go back to the strategy like I talked about. Short-term, immediate opportunities that are in front of you, but how do you really capture and close on those? Midterm is cultivating opportunities that do not yet exist, and long-term is where do you if you want to get your career to the next 3 levels and do something aspirational, something inspirational for others, something that makes a difference in this world, you're going to need long-term planning. You're going to need multiple opportunity channels, meaning there's nothing wrong with applying with jobs online and that kind of thing. I encourage that, but statistically that will not be the most likely way that you're going to advance your career. But networking, collaborating, being a thought leader in the marketplace, applying for jobs online, applying for jobs within your company, growing your business, selling your business, these are all channels for developing your career. And these are the things that business performance talks about. You have to have this. I'm sort of a Westerner, so I use Western analogies. Got to have a lot of irons in the fire, meaning branding irons in the fire, if you will, and or keep a lot of plates spinning in the air. But there's no one single way or one single channel to promote your career and advance it. You've got to understand that it takes multiple channels, and you need to really manage that diligently and use a database to do that. Time management is critical. You have to really ask yourself, is the activity I'm doing right now really going to generate opportunities, or is it just doing something and I feel like I'm busy, but I'm really not? Effective networking is an entirely separate webinar. How do we network? We talked about that a little bit in the conversations, forward-looking conversations, connecting with people on beliefs. If you are networking and it's not working for you, contact me about it. But here's the thing about networking. The first commitment is to serve others, and the first understanding is that you're going to end up helping more people than you help yourself, in a sense. Easily, I've found more jobs, more opportunities for dozens and dozens and dozens of people than I have for myself through my networking. But that's okay, because it fits into my philosophy of serving others. And in time, this all does come around. But the key to networking is not collecting business cards. It's really developing a relationship where you know that person based on their principles, beliefs, practices, and vision. And they know you for the same thing. And you connect emotionally, and they're just simply somebody you want to have in your life. That's hyper effective networking. The biggest problem I see in networking is people don't ask. They don't ask for a referral. They don't ask for help, and they don't know how to ask, and they're not specific enough in their asking. So learning how to ask is critical. If you're not asking for people to support you and help you, and you're not being really succinct and clear about what you're asking for, and you're not asking too much, you're asking one simple thing that they can understand, your networking, your career development isn't really going to work for you. If you're running your own business, you constantly need to ask people that like you, that work with you, ask them for referrals, ask family member referrals, ask neighbors for referrals. And by and large, a very small percentage of the people that we work with here at Business Performance USA are truly asking the way they should. That's an important factor. Learn how to help and critique. This is a tough one for networking, but networking is also about building relationships, and that generally turns into making friends. A good friend is going to tell you what you need to know. A good friend is going to tell you what you need to hear and do, even if it may be a little painful for you, even if there's a little sting. This falls into the give first mentality, but help others, critiquing others is critical. And last, tactics. The number one reason networking and career development doesn't go quickly is because people are not following up. They're not, and just, if you meet somebody, put that person into a spreadsheet, build a profile on them, understand who they are, what they're about, what industry they offer, what skill set they provide, and follow up with that person on a regular basis, and communicate in a way that offers value to them, and follow up on every opportunity you have. You never really know. It's a huge fail or failure among networkers simply not to follow up. One last thing we're going to hit on, and then I'm going to give you an even broader view of what business performance can do for you in terms of career planning. And then we're going to talk a little about where you can fit into that world, special interest groups and whatnot. But the emotional state is a wild card. And the first thing I want to talk about with people is that do not underestimate the emotional challenges that career development can create for you, especially if you're in transition. It's being in transition in this marketplace, in many sectors of the country, particularly Southern California, where it's not easy, is a true roller coaster. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to be wondering, why am I not breaking through? People challenge their sense of who they are. Their confidence can get rattled when their career is not advancing the way it should or needs to. But it's also important to understand there's two aspects of your career development. There's the objective viewpoint and there's the emotional viewpoint. If you're having emotional issues and challenges, I do. And frankly, when I sit down with everyone, those 200 people I talked about, everyone does. Everyone has days where they just wake up and think, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm never going to get to where I need to get to. Their confidence is rattled and so on and so on. Go ahead and acknowledge that and deal with that for what it is, for an emotional challenge. But separate your objectivity of your career, keep the two separate. Work your career strategy, tactics, messaging from an objective point of view and a commitment to hard work. But when you're feeling, just say, emotional for what in whatever emotional state it is regarding your career, regarding your success, regarding your traction, go ahead and deal with that in terms of how you would classic emotional states. But don't make tactical or strategic decisions about your career while you're in an emotional state. Separate the two. And then you'll be able to manage both. And you'll be able to, when the emotional stuff comes up, you'll be able to recognize it for what it is, put it in the compartment where it belongs, and deal with it on its own terms and not have it affect your other thinking. So that's, we've got into a little bit of detail. We haven't got into tactics or really how to make these things work for you. When I say these things, again, I'm talking messaging, or strategy, messaging, tactics, and emotional state. Those are 4 cornerstones of your career. But really, all I can do in this short amount of time is create awareness that business performance here at USA is here to work through these things with you. And it's best to contact me directly. Sometimes a personal one-on-one conversation is best, and we will have group conversations, what Cynthia and Jeff call a confab, we were just discussing about, but to tell our own stories to each other and create support. But let me run through a bunch of slides. Please take note of these, and you can, by the way, download all of these slides in the handouts. Why business, there's a PDF file, Why Business Performance USA Careers, and then you can have a laundry item, if you will, a menu, if you will, of all the different things that we can talk about in the near and long distance future regarding your career. I'm just going to kind of jump through these quickly, if you will. One person is saying that I got a comment that they don't see or don't show any handouts. On your user interface, there is a whole list of drop downs. It's towards the bottom of me, but these are fungible, so it's towards the bottom. It just simply says handouts. 1 of 5, there's only 1. And I imagine if you click on that, it's a hyperactive link and you'll be able to download that file. And if you do that, then, like I said, again, you'll have a laundry list of things that we can talk to you and work with you on regarding your career. Here's just a broad range of things that we talk about. And there's over a dozen topics here. We talk often with folks that want to advance their career about the 4 rules of selling. Like I said, you're a salesperson, whether you're running your own small business or you're advancing your career within a company, you have to convince other people. Just a quick footnote, the 4 rules of selling, or the really 4 categories, is priority, relevant, invaluable, and easy. Always understand the top burning priority of the person you're talking to, whether it's a prospective client, your boss, your CEO. What is their top burning issue? Not want to do, not need to do, not like to do, not wish to do, absolutely must do, or everything is going to fall apart. That's where you start understanding their priority. Number two, keep all your conversations directed towards that priority. Number three, when you're conversing about that priority, communicating about that priority, offer something that's invaluable. Offer insights, offer tips and tricks, offer data, offer a case study. Whatever it is, keep supporting your understanding of their priorities by offering relevant, invaluable tips and tricks. And lastly, easy. It's really important to make every interaction with you really easy and likable. That's a little more detail than I have time for getting in all of these. We talk about forward-looking conversations. We've covered that a little bit, so I'm going to move on. Target companies. For the midterm and long-term career advancement for you, you must need to have target companies. I encourage to start with one, and then add two more. Now you have three. Get up to 5 at least. I know people that manage up to 20, but boy, that's a lot of work. And here's why it's a lot of work. For your target company, you really have to create what I call a dossier on that company. You can call it a SWOT analysis if you want. You have to understand their situation that they're in the marketplace. You have to understand their products and services they bring forward. You have to understand the opportunities that are present in that marketplace. What are their weaknesses? What are their hurdles? And what strategies and tactics that you can bring to the table that's going to provide real value. And ultimately, real value has to show up on the P side of P&L, on the profit side. Every conversation you have with a business person of why they should listen to your idea, or why they should hire you, or why they should advance you, you need to correlate your value somewhere on the bottom line. So having target companies is absolutely critical for mid and long-term career advancement. It's a lot of work, and talk to me about how we can help you develop that. And we'll have a webinar on that someday in the future. We also talk about pitch like pros. Again, you have to pitch your ideas, and it gets into what I just talked about, situational awareness, goals for the company. What are your strategies to advance that? What's the proof that you can do it? Talk about the benefits of a relationship, of a deeper relationship. But pitching, selling, same thing. And it's always client-centric, it's boss-centric, it's CEO-centric, it's company-centric. Ironically, it's really never about you. And if you go out into the world and ask people for a job, they're probably not going to give it to you, okay? If you go out there and talk to people in the marketplace, in the world, about what they can do to move them forward, to move their company forward, to move their department forward, they're going to be interested in that kind of conversation. And they'll be able to connect the dots that, man, I need to work with this person. I need to hire this person. I need to promote this person. We'll have, if networking isn't working for you, or you're not even doing it, you absolutely must start doing it, because the world has changed. But effective networking is a commitment. It's a must-have. It's a lifelong commitment. And feel free to talk to Jeff, Cynthia, and I about effective networking. It's what we do here at Business Performance USA. We create communities for you to network with. We have interview skills that we'll be talking about. I'm going to jump through these kind of quickly. How to contract without consulting, something I've touched on a little bit. Contracting can be the avenue for either launching or really invigorating a consulting company you want to start, or contracting can lead to a full-time job. It's the middle ground, and it's the differentiation is the contracting work is you're going to sign an employee contract or just a freelance contract, and you're going to get in, you're going to start doing on day one. It's a little different from consulting. You might think of it as consulting, including getting results. We talk about how to write a CEO letter, how to communicate to a CEO to get them to hire you or get them to contract with you. And a pain letter it can be really written to anyone, but to why your skills and capabilities can alleviate pain. It's a classic selling technique. Find out the pain points and tell the prospect how you can alleviate them, if you will. I'm going to check for questions real quickly. We do have comments, but I'm going to jump out. We're very close to wrapping this up. I guess we got a few more. If you're not clear about how to work on LinkedIn, talk to us, of course. We'll be producing webinars on LinkedIn strategy and tactics. We can talk to you about how to be a thought leader in the marketplace. LinkedIn is a great place to be that thought leader. But again, you have to have your strategy nailed down. You have to have your vision. You have to understand your beliefs. You have to understand exactly what your principles and best practices are. And you want to communicate those and share those openly and freely with the world so that they can learn from you, so that you can be an inspirational leader and people will want to follow you in social media. So being a thought leader is directly connected to social media strategies and how to get your name out there as an expert in your subject matter. Sometimes companies want to on how to share best practices without getting burned. A lot of interviewing these days says, okay, write me a business plan. Okay, write me this, do me that, give me all this information. And it kind of feels like you're getting used a little bit. It's like these guys are just draining me of my ideas, and they're going to go off and think they can execute them without me. That does happen, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be willing to share your best practices, but there's ways of doing it without getting burned, okay? In simple terms, it's quid pro quo, baby. I'm willing to do things for you, but you need to do things for me. And everything you give, you need to get back in return. And the first thing you want to get back is you want to be able to ask questions and get back honest answers, and you need to probe that company. So the first thing that you want to get back when you start sharing is you want to get answers back, and you want to, these answers need to give you clarity onto what's going inside that company on a strategic and an operational level. And Jeff and Cynthia, I'll be queuing you up soon, whoever may want to talk. But again, like I said, as you can see, we'll be covering a multiple of topics to help you advance your career. And your active engagement is critical. It is all about you. Business performance is all about you. But if you're not engaged with us, obviously, it's not going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to happen, at least with you and Business Performance USA. So we will be creating support groups for you, and it begins really with just you. Let's just start a one-on-one conversation. We will be doing things like envisioning your career, creating peer review sessions for your strategic plan. I mean, imagine if you were in a room, and I do this every other Friday, so literally we create a room full of really bright, intelligent people, and we sort of pitch each other. We talk to each other. Here's my situation. Here's what I'm thinking of doing about it. Here's my elevator pitch. What do you think about it? It's a peer review of brilliant, like-minded individuals that care and want to give back, but they're smart as can be. And what if you had your own brain trust to help you develop your strategic game plan? That's kind of what we do here. And so just to close up on my end of it, when we at Business Performance USA talk about liberating the human spirit, this is what we mean. We want to unleash the potential you have within your career. We want to liberate your career and help you find a purpose for working as hard as you do. That's our mission. This is our vision for you, and we want you to share your vision with us. So Jeff or Cynthia, do you either want to talk about strategic or special interest groups? Do you have any comments?
Sure. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine, Jeff. That's Dr. Jeff Stewart, folks, co-founder of Business Performance USA. Go ahead, Jeff.
You bet. Special interest groups. Without getting into a long discussion at this point, because we could spend a significant amount of time on the work of special interest groups, let's just be clear that it's special, first of all, and that means it's not just about general stuff like the weather and picnics and how the kids are, although initiating a conversation has its important and valuable social emotional components. It's about special stuff. It's about things that interest you. And the word interest is used many ways in English, but basically it's a return on your investment. So when you put your nickel into a group with something special on your mind, you want to get something back that equals or betters what you put in. And the way you do that, of course, is to work within the group, which is to establish relationships and to converse in ways that make a difference and to share your brain and your pathway and your purpose in ways that inspire others and inform others and help others to identify their opportunities. It's interesting that when you help others identify one opportunity, typically you'll think of 5 or 10 opportunities, or they will help you think of 5 or 10 ways in which what's in front of you can turn to the better. So special interest groups are crucial to what we do in Business Performance USA. Aside from becoming a general member and sort of cruising the site and looking for interesting faces and people or pulling down videos and that type of thing, which is typical of many social media sites, what we're engaging in is the process of helping people focus together where they share common good and common interests. So that's a special interest group. In the end of this year and through next year, we're actually forming up at least a dozen different special interest groups, some of which are like Victor's activity here on career advancement. His group will focus in a special way on how you plan on strategic career advancement, even if you've got short-term needs. How those short-term needs fit your outlook over the long range for your career and help you advance by just the way you put your hands on life and maneuver through the work that's in front of you day by day with your career. So Victor's is a good example. You've seen an introduction to his passion and his concern today, and many of you, of course, online have either worked with him or know of him through others, and that's very helpful because I know Victor will be inviting you to the group. Now, the thing to understand is that when we, in Victor's case particularly, where we're dealing with people's careers and all the developmental issues involved with that, those particular group meetings will probably not be recorded in most cases unless Victor and the members of his group decide to have some sort of welcoming event for new members. Instead, they'll be private meetings, confidential, and you know, that's protected two ways: by the SIG maven, in this case Victor, and others that work with him and run the group, or by just gaining access to the group, which is a permission process. So we'll talk more about that in the future as well. Here's some other kinds of groups. One is the Institute to institute conversational fundraising in your business and in your life. Make your conversations about a process that will lead you to the right moment of asking for whatever it is you want. This works in career development, not just in launching a business or something like that. How about veterans coming home to work? That's another one. Another one would be hiring right for cultural accountability. So when you get involved with the issue of excellence in your work and your focus on being able to relate to others in teams, how do you make that as an executive or a professional reflect itself in the right way to hire people and to be hired, as a matter of fact? Because as you know, when you go for an interview, you're qualifying the person doing the hiring as much as they're trying to qualify you. And Victor, I'm sure, will address that in great detail in his SIG. So another one would be expanding market reach exponentially. We have social media experts that work with us in every facet of social media and in other aspects of not just scaling, but really reaching out into the marketplace so you have strategic viability. Another one would be how to decide for a digital ROI. In other words, if you have a digital property, a website, whether it's for personal branding or it's just a page on LinkedIn or whatever, what decisions do you make in very specific terms that work for a return on your investment? So, or if it's a website you're developing for an interim business for contract employment, what do you need to take into consideration in order to get a return on the investment you're making in building even a very simple WordPress site? So another area would be lean excellence. You know, we have one of the country's most successful leaders in excellence in culture, and she will have a group that turbocharges the cultures you work in, whether they are 1 to 3 type groups or whether they are full-scale corporate teams. So lean excellence is an ongoing way of taking the extra step, of going the extra mile, and making sure that your engagement matters for everybody. And we can go on and on and on. There are, as I said, at least a dozen right now, and I got a phone call this morning from a new launched partnership that will become public in the new year, and they're very interested in having special interests related to their ability to bring very focused human skills intensification to a job search and a career development path. Okay, well, those are my comments, Victor. I hope that these may have been of some interest to people. We would certainly like those who've been here for your webinar today to be online. And the last point I'll make is that those who come into special interest groups who want to be thought leaders in a way for those who share common interests can address those interests within the group or do webinars for the larger group of Business Performance USA members and begin the process of refining their thought leadership. Do you have any questions? Is mine, and I've spent approximately 6 minutes, so I'm sure somebody must have some questions.
Well, Dr. Jeff, we actually don't have questions. I'm checking the question chat feature right now and don't see any. So I appreciate that.
Well, that would be unusual. I hope somebody is at least prepared to throw an eraser at me and get me off the mic.
No erasers, but maybe a Nerf football. We will, however, just close it out this time and thank everybody for their the time spent today on this webinar. And let's make it worth your time. Reach out to me, and that's how we're going to really take it to the next level. You have some awareness of what we can do, but let's get into actually doing it. That's what matters in this world. Action over talk always wins out the day. So with that, thank you again for joining me. You can find me at businessperformanceusa.org, Victor at businessperformanceusa.org. We're changing our website, but currently if you go to the homepage, look for that B in the upper right-hand corner and click on that, and you will have a short form to fill out to join. It's always complimentary, and we look forward to interacting with you and taking your career to a new and more meaningful level. Thank you, Dr. Jeff. Thank you, Cynthia Stewart, and I appreciate everyone's time. Be well. Make it a great day.